Let's start with a bit of a backstory. We were here at the MMRT back in 2018 for the OVERDRIVE Awards. As always, there was a long lineup of vehicles to try out. And when I did, one motorcycle, well, it left me baffled. The BMW S1000RR. What a motorcycle. Enjoyed riding every bit of it, every lap of it. So much so that the only time I gave up riding that motorcycle was when the sunset forced me to. Not that there were no other fast motorcycles in the pit that day. We had some amazing Triumphs and Ducatis as well, but nothing really came close. But that said, one motorcycle did catch my fancy. It managed to put a smile on my face every time I took it out for a lap. And that was this, the TVS Apache RR310. Yes, it's nowhere as manic, not as powerful, not as sharp a handler as the S1000RR, and yet it is so enjoyable. The way it lets you push your limits, you know that it is cut from the same fabric as the S1000RR. And no, I'm not hinting at the BMW engine or TVS's relationship with the Germans. I am talking about this being a true super sport, even though we've often called it an all-rounder, which is just as good at sport touring and commuting. It doesn't feel like a compromise in the super sport universe. If you were to chart a natural progression starting from the R15 all the way up to the stalwarts like the S1000RR and the Ducati V4s and all of that, this one fits right in as the ideal second step. That's how good it is as a super sport. But wait, why are we talking about the RR310 all over again? That's because this is the updated model, the 2020 edition. So let me tell you what's changed. A BS6 compliant engine, new electronics, a jazzy new dashboard, smartphone connectivity, the new two-tone color scheme that you see here, and new rubber are what make this 2020 Apache RR310 different. Now let's get into the details of it. Because of the BMW-defined reverse shape or the reverse placement of the engine head, the header pipe is small, and that means all the emission and the noise curbing equipment is inside this exhaust canister. And for the BS6 conversion, all the internals have now been redesigned. As a result, the overall weight of this bike has gone up by 3.5 kilos, and the sound of that exhaust, well, it's gotten deeper. Take a listen. That also means that there is no pre-cat bulge on the exhaust pipe. The engine is still the familiar 312cc single-cylinder BMW-sourced motor, and it puts out the same 34 PS of power and 27 Nm of torque. So there is no displacement gain or no power loss in this BS6 conversion, and that's good news. Better news is that this engine now comes with 4 riding modes to suit the environment that you're riding in. Yes, there are riding modes, 4 of them: track, sport, urban and rain, and they come courtesy of a throttle-by-wire system. Now these systems are quite expensive to integrate, but I'm glad TVS have done that because they bring along a wealth of functionality. Now the riding modes will not only alter the throttle response, but they'll also alter the amount of power that's going to the rear wheel. Put it in track or sport mode and you get the entire power to play with. Put it in urban mode or rain mode and you only get about 26 PS or 25 Nm. Only a marginal restriction on the torque theoretically means that the rideability in the city in the urban mode shouldn't be affected much, while the reduced power and a different throttle map theoretically ensures improved fuel economy in the city over the BS4 engined RR310. And on the highway, the precise fueling from the ride-by-wire ensures economy benefits too. That's good news again. The riding modes also make changes to the response of the anti-lock brakes, very alert and smooth for the rain mode or sharp for the track, even allowing you to trail brake into a corner without upsetting the bike's dynamics. It may look race ready with the TVS racing and all of that, but you can't just buy this motorcycle and hit the racetrack instantly. Now you will have to finish a proper running in procedure and get your first service done to be able to unlock the track and the sport modes. And once you do that, then yes, the track is all yours. We've been riding in the track mode all along because, of course, race track, and this is the mode I want to be in. It gets you a much crisper throttle response. It lets you rev all the way to the red line if you have to. It lets you stay there if you have to without the limiter cutting in and cutting power significantly. It's a very linear power delivery. That was always the case with this engine, but now it just feels a little more crisper, a little more instantaneous, and that's what I like about it. Now, if you move to the urban mode, then of course, like I said earlier, you don't get the full power. At the same time, because you don't get the full power, the way it delivers that power has also changed, and the amount of vibrations has reduced. Now, if you remember, that was one thing that we always complained about with this engine, the buzzy nature of the engine, the vibey nature of the engine. So in the city use, with that urban mode, the vibrations will be far lesser. There is a noticeable change in the power delivery between the track and the road modes. And though the peak output of the engine is unchanged, the ride-by-wire system ensures more precise throttle control and linear power delivery. That smoothness also has a positive effect on the mid-corner stability of the bike. The brakes also have a more progressive bite than before, and the tires have a big role to play in how well this motorcycle stops. But the biggest piece of upgrade for the 2020 RR310 has to be the rubber. These are the Michelin Pilot Road 5. Now, the name essentially hints that these are ideal for the road, but they've completely bowled me over with the kind of grip that they offer on the track. It's made the bike faster and sharper through all corners, and that speaks volumes for what these tires can do. In fact, the grip is so good that I now want the rear sets to be set higher. And if you already own an RR310, this is going to improve the replay value of your motorcycle by a huge margin. These are available with TVS as a part of their spares catalog, so definitely do give this a try and definitely get a pair of these. TVS hints that these tires, which have been co-developed with Michelin to match the spec of the RR310, have been the missing link in the puzzle. Compared to the previous Pilot Street, the Pilot Road 5 that you see here has a longer life and significantly grippier shoulders, courtesy of a dual compound construction. That grip not only enhances speed and feel, but also exploits the suspension to its fullest potential when sport riding or when hitting the track. And I can vouch for that. On some of the sections of the track, the rear did feel a bit twitchy, but the grip never seemed unnerving. If you are an expert rider though, you will certainly opt for more specialized track rubber. These Michelins also improve the front-end feedback by a fair margin, and that's another plus point. There's also a full-color digital instrumentation now, and that is going to be one of the big talking points for the new RR310. The display looks crisp. It's better than anything that you've seen in this price bracket so far. The UI, very easy to use, very intuitive, and it's controlled with this switchgear that you have on the left side of the handlebar. The only grudge is overhead sun. It's a little difficult to read, but then you can just lean forward a little bit and the shadow from your helmet should help you read this otherwise. And at night, you get a night mode or a dark mode as well. So as a package, I think it's very nicely integrated. It looks very nice, doesn't feel like an afterthought, still maintains that vertical format that TVS has put on the RR310. It's very easy to read, and all the data, you know exactly what is where. It's just a matter of getting used to maybe a day or two with the motorcycle, and you know exactly what data is where, and even one glance will easily let you identify the data that you have been looking for. The layout changes as per the riding modes that you select. Track mode will keep the rev counter and the lap timer in focus. Sports mode adds trip data and the gear indicator. The urban mode will display an old school style analog rev counter, while the rain mode will simply change the theme to a darker shade of blue. The instrumentation also supports smartphone connectivity over Bluetooth for telephony and navigation readouts. The menus are intuitive and the system feels quite slick, just like the rest of the bike. The switchgear quality is top-notch too, and a simple press of the upward arrow cycles between the riding modes. All the modes can be engaged on the fly, provided you keep the throttle closed. And when you restart the motorcycle, it remembers the last riding mode selection. For enhancing the bike's pro and sport touring capabilities, TVS has also incorporated the glide-through system, which allows the bike to maintain a certain speed in every gear even when the throttle is closed. A cheap alternative to cruise control, you could say, though it's more like an anti-stall creep or a crawling function. But it's a welcome addition nonetheless and doesn't really impact the engine braking in any way. Further enhancements for the Touring are new LED headlamps and the windscreen that is now removable. It is not adjustable yet, but opens the opportunity for aftermarket touring or racing screens. To sum it all up, the RR310's 2020 update is more than just cleaner emissions. It brings along a wealth of new functionality that improves the character and ups the appeal for this motorcycle. And yet the pricing manages to remain more accessible than the sum of all the parts that contribute to this upgrade. A 5-year warranty and a tempting new finance scheme that TVS is offering are more reasons that make the RR310 worth a look if you're shopping in the sub 3 lakh rupees super sport space.